and welcome to the ICT Pulse podcast. I'm Michelle Marius, your host, and the editor and publisher of ICT Pulse, the online platform where we discuss ICT issues from a Caribbean perspective. Today we'll be talking about electronic e-commerce in the Caribbean, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Santine, the founder and managing director of CX Pay, a payment gateway provider located in Curacao. So if you have any interest in online business or being able to accept online payments, this is the show for you. Luis, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so Luis, tell us about CX Pay. What is it? How long it has been around? And you would have noted in my introduction that I said that it was a payment gateway provider. What does that mean?
Okay, Michelle, CX Pay has been around since 2015. It's actually started boarding merchants, so providing its services in January of 2016. We are a payment services provider, a PSP as they call it, and specifically we provide gateway services, payment gateway services, which means that in order for merchants to receive online payments, they need a gateway to connect them to an acquiring bank. So that is the role that we play. We're essentially the bridge between the merchant and the banks in order for them to be able to receive online payments via mostly credit cards as we know it here in the region.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why did you set up CX Pay and why set it up in Curacao?
Well, Curacao has a long history of financial services. We have a well-established banking sector here and many other financial service providers. Typically, we've been, if you will, one of the leaders in the region and way back in the past, even internationally. And e-commerce has caught on so much the last few years. But we noticed that here in the region, and the region being the wider Caribbean, even parts of Central America, we were lagging in this area. To help facilitate, a lot of merchants were looking for online payment solutions and had to default to so-called cross-border solutions, not being able to do it locally because the solutions were not readily available. So we decided to tap into this market, establishing ourselves here in Curacao and trying to become kind of like the preferred payment service provider for the region, whereby in setting up a network of mostly, regional banks, local banks, we can provide merchants with a local solution. What does that mean? It means that the merchant, say if it's established in Jamaica, will be able to use CX Pay as its gateway, but through a local Jamaican bank. And that model can be copied essentially to most of the other territories in the Caribbean and Central America.
Okay. So, how would one then go about acquiring one's services? Take us through the process. Can an organization just go online and go to your website and just secure the services that it believes it needs? How does that work?
Yeah, through our website, which is cxpay.global, merchants can come in and sign up through our sign-up form. There are different regions mentioned because for each region we have a slightly different onboarding process depending on the acquiring partners we work with. So a merchant would either contact us beforehand, ask its questions, we'll guide them through the process, and at the moment comes that they're interested in engaging our services or our solutions, they would need to sign up through our website. Because we do need that vetting form to take it to our acquiring partners. There's a series of questions and information that need to be completed, relevant to the merchant's business, its operations, the volumes, amounts that they expect to transact, and clearly also mentioning the business that they are in, because some industries are restricted or not serviced by the regional banks. And once we receive that form, we will check it for accuracy and completeness, signed by the merchant, and we then take it to the preferred partner bank.
Okay. But the only thing though is that, at least certainly that is what you do, but clearly the merchant themselves would also have to liaise with their own banks to figure out what the bank itself might require, as well as whether or not they are in good standing or whatever, to allow.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, there are two sides to the story indeed. That the bank itself will also do its own onboarding. This is assuming that the merchant is already a client with that specific bank. Obviously, we do not work with every single bank in the region, but that means that if a merchant is not yet a client of that bank, in order to obtain a merchant account, for it to engage in e-commerce services, it would first need to establish a corporate account with that bank. So that process would be before you can actually engage for an e-payment services.
Okay. So who currently are CX Pay's customers?
Well, we have, over the past 2.5 years, we have serviced or onboarded over 100 merchants throughout the Caribbean. The dominant market that we are active in is the Dutch Caribbean, with Curaçao leading the way, followed by Aruba. We have a couple of merchants in Bonaire and St. Martin as well. But we also have merchants in Panama, Jamaica, and other areas of the Caribbean, where we are more and more receiving inquiries from merchants, and we are managing to onboard them to our partner network. This ranges from Belize to Trinidad to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Puerto Rico, you name it. It's a long list because there's a lot of different territories in the Caribbean.
Okay. So let me ask then, because you seem to at least be getting a foothold in the region, but I gather though that there are in some quarters that let's say small businesses in particular, might find it difficult to be able to secure online merchant services. And I wanted to get a sense from you as to if you have any idea as to what the reasons might be.
The reason is there are many reasons for it. I mean, with a lot of things that are related to the financial services, if you will, the Caribbean region has been under significant pressure from international organizations, and this is the same with e-payment services. In the end, a lot of banks are hesitant to engage in this line of business because to them it's still relatively new. And they're always looking at their correspondent relationships to ensure that they are comfortable with this new line of activity. It can also be the case of the particular industry that the banks are catering to, but traditionally you will see that the services in the Caribbean are greatly related to retail, hospitality, travel, things like that. So nothing too fancy, nothing too exotic. But mostly, I think it's an issue with volumes. E-payments or gateway services, it's a volume-based business. And because these markets are relatively small, that means that the volume that you would typically need for having a viable business is also not present. That is the case for the gateway, but that's also the case for the banks who offer the acquiring services. So oftentimes they assess the risk based on the return that they would expect, and oftentimes they would then conclude that while they have the license to operate and offer this service, they don't necessarily want to give it much priority. And that is oftentimes the bottleneck that a lot of merchants, especially those from the smaller territories, are facing, and where we hope to then step in through the partnerships that we have.
So how would your intervention help?
Our intervention has helped to the extent that in making the connection with the acquiring partners in the region, we come in well documented and with our experience for them to feel comfortable that as the partner, we are knowledgeable about the subject matter, that in practice then the merchants will be well serviced, and also what we bring to them as a possible merchant onboarding has been vetted enough and advised, so they would have less doubt about the quality of the merchants that they would be engaging with. We put great effort and time into advising the merchants that sign up through us to ensure that this is the step that they do want to make, and that they are ready for this assignment, and also they have the right volumes and the right tools to operate this business.
Okay. So currently, who are CX Pay's competitors, and how has CX Pay been able to differentiate itself from its competition?
Well, competitors, really, it's hard to pinpoint, because we are one of the few, and in some territories, the only one that offer this as a local solution. And local being that, well, we consider ourselves local for the fact that we're based here in the Caribbean, and we work with the local partners, local partner banks in the different territories to provide the service. Competition, because this is e-services or e-payments, what you see is that there's a lot of cross-border solutions being offered these days, and while some of them work perfectly and are quite convenient for many merchants, they do require that payments are done in an account outside of the market where the merchants operate in. It then means that those funds are transferred back to the merchants, to an account of their choice. And in some cases, depending on the structure the structures that they would use, it also means that they would need to set up a company either in Europe or in the US, etc. What we do here is we work with the local banks. We work with the local banks, and that way the merchant can ensure that all amounts settled via credit card payments go directly into their local bank account. It provides them with more security, more comfort, and in the end, it's an easier process. So having said that, it's somewhat difficult to indicate who our competitors are, because none of them necessarily do it the way we do. We have an extensive network of acquiring partners throughout the region. And the experience or the service that we bring to the table is oftentimes unmatched, because many do not want to invest in the time that we put in guiding merchants, simply because of the volume issue that I mentioned before.
Okay. So just going back to this whole issue of volume and the some of the reasons why Caribbean businesses might experience difficulty in securing online merchant services. You have any thoughts as to what it might take to get more Caribbean businesses using e-commerce? I think that we have a lot of innovative startups and entrepreneurs who are looking at online businesses as as their path to wealth creation. But if it's going to be so difficult for them to set up some sort of e-commerce system for their business, then they almost get hindered even before they start. So you have any thoughts as to how we might be able to remedy such a situation?
Unfortunately, I think everything comes with experience and with time. The Caribbean traditionally or typically is slow to catch on with a lot of international developments, and for the simple reason that it's a complex area, complex in the sense that you have a lot of small countries in the region, and there are some that are extremely small. And when you're in that size, oftentimes it's difficult to catch on to certain developments because of the cost that it carries to operate at same levels internationally. But I think we've come to a point where you see more and more merchants are realizing that having an online presence and also combining that with receiving online payments is becoming more and more crucial as part of the service that they want to offer, but also the possibilities or the opportunities that it creates. Obviously, depending on the service or product that you are offering, you can expand your market significantly if you position and promote yourself accordingly by receiving payments from not only your internal market. And this is some of the benefits that e-payments bring with it. And as more and more merchants start engaging in online payments, altogether the volumes will increase. And as the volumes increase, in the end, the fees will gradually start coming down. And that's the way to do it. That's realistically the only way we will be able to compete with other territories, because we simply do not have the numbers like the bigger markets. The Caribbean altogether, depending on which statistics you use, claim to have like some 45 million inhabitants, which is a significant chunk. But you have some small territories that only have a few thousand inhabitants. So for them, obviously, it will be difficult to compete. But altogether as a region, which is how the region is evaluated by the card schemes being Visa, MasterCard, etc., they look at the region as a whole. So the more and more merchants sign up, the better it will be for the rates and other benefits that we can enjoy in this landscape.
Okay. So you had mentioned about, I guess, the region being slow to catch on to some of the global trends, but are you seeing any sort of trends specific to e-commerce that are happening in the region?
Trends is difficult to mention individually. The trends being that there are more and more services offered via mobile apps. That is one thing we see. If in the past a lot of things were done primarily from based from a website, now there's a lot of mobile apps, and with this, the types of services or the way the services are offered also change. With this also, you see that there are different products and services that are being developed to help stimulate receiving payments and offering different payment methods. For example, CX Pay just recently also started offering various other alternative payment methods. We're mostly familiar with Visa, MasterCard, or even the American Express, etc., which are, say, card payments. But there's a vast amount of alternative payment methods internationally, from Europe to Asia to Latin America, like Ideal, SoFort Banking, Alipay, or even BitPay and other services like that we are now able to accommodate. So depending on the region, for example, if you are a small hotel or even a large one, and you know that a significant amount of your clients come from the Dutch or German markets, now you can, in addition to the traditional credit cards, also offer payment methods that cater to that market. The same for Asian travelers, if you will, or Latin America, where you have in Brazil, for example, you have Elo Pay, which is a specific payment method to the Brazilian market, and the list goes on and on. So these are the changes that we're seeing, that we're creating more and more payment methods and ways for people to make their payments.
Okay. So we did an interesting program about GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations, a few weeks ago, and talking about the provisions and its impact on various entities, especially since it's all about how you manage personal data. So has the GDPR had any impact on CX Pay? Do you anticipate it having any impact on CX Pay?
Not necessarily that it will have an impact. It's just something that we need to take into consideration. But the way GDPR has been set up and implemented, it pretty much affects everyone, no matter where you're based or what services you provide, because one way or the other, it does influence your operations or activities. In our case, specifically at CX Pay, it's relevant for data taken from our site to target or retarget visitors, where we now need to have the approval or request the visitor's permission for that. Also, when we have newsletters or information that we want to communicate to our audience, such as mass mailing, mail blast, that can only occur once the particular recipient has signed up through our site. And is given him permission. But in both ways, it's a good thing. We are used to privacy in the financial industry to begin with, and the way our platform operates is that data is kept secure regardless. This is just another way to enforce it, and we need to be on top of it, which we are. So we're ready to go ahead.
And just to be clear, because in terms of what CX Pay manages in terms of personal data, so you all at least would have access to like credit card information. Is that correct?
That's partly. We just sent the confirmation of the payment. The approval is sent over our gateway, so the actual data is not kept by us.
Okay.
The only information we have is that of our clients who we engage in agreements with, and our clients being the merchants. So whoever is the merchant's client who transact through our gateway, needless to say, we see the transaction flow and approved or declined, but not all the data is kept and usable for us. So we have a very discreet and private way of protecting this information. And so the information of card users are secure through our platform.
Okay, so I think I guess I'm getting down to my last set of questions. So if a Caribbean business is looking to secure e-commerce, online merchant services, what are probably 3 things you would advise them to do?
It all comes down to really one thing. If you want to go with the flow, and if you have an intention or interest in receiving online payments, you want to participate in the e-commerce world, just contact CX Pay, or for that matter, any other payment gateway service provider, because oftentimes we rule out the possibility based on inaccuracies of information that it's too expensive, it's too complex, it's too this, it's too that. In reality, the process to obtain a merchant account to receive online payments can be cumbersome, but it's no different than opening a bank account or anything else. We are here to assist. It's oftentimes much easier than people think. And don't stare yourself blind on the numbers, on the costs, because when you add up the numbers, when you do the math, sure, there's a cost related to receiving online payments, but there's a cost associated with pretty much every other activity that we engage in. And this is another way for merchants to receive money. And the opportunities are significant, especially with all the different payment methods, the different ways to do it. A lot of people, what they don't realize is you don't necessarily even have to have a website for you to receive online payments. There is something called the hosted payment page that, depending on your services, you can send out a link to your clients, and by clicking the link, it opens up in, say, a page that is an invoice, and these can be paid online with credit card. So e-commerce has so many opportunities and possibilities that we just like to tell merchants, make that step, be part of this movement. We are here to assist, and we'll gladly welcome them on board as our clients.
All right, so Luis, just I know that we spoke about using credit cards and the difficulty that a lot of businesses are having with securing the necessary approvals from their local bank in order to get an online merchant account going. But what are your thoughts about PayPal? Because for many online businesses or Caribbean businesses, they see it as a bit of a workaround.
Yeah, well, the difficulty with PayPal itself is a great solution for online payments. The challenge with PayPal is that PayPal does not make it possible for merchants in the Caribbean, or in any case, most of the Caribbean territories, to sign up. So as an individual user or consumer, you can have a PayPal account, but PayPal is not available for merchants. Now, the misconception oftentimes is that most PayPal accounts are funded by a credit card that is tied to the PayPal account. So having said that, if the users already have a credit card, you can board with any other payment solution where they accept credit cards. You don't necessarily need PayPal. PayPal is an efficient use, it's secure, and it's great, but it should not be a limiting factor. Okay, so I individually, I also have a PayPal account, but that's funded by my credit card. So any other site I go on where I do not accept PayPal, I can still pay with the same credit card. So people should not limit themselves to or that PayPal is the only way to go. It is, yes, it is convenient, etc. But in the end, these other solutions provide you with the same possibilities because in the end, it's a credit card transaction that is performed.
Okay, so tell me about some of these other solutions. You spoke about the hosted payment page, which I hadn't heard about before. Are there others that we could consider?
Yeah, there are many other solutions or services tools that we offer. For example, on our website, you can there's a broad overview of the different tools that we can offer in addition. But some of the other solutions, things that we're working on, the platform based, for example, is because of the high demand of users to pay with debit cards, if you will, or other means of payment through, for example, SMS services, etc., top-ups. We are working with local partners to create if you will, a payment wallet system or payment ecosystem, whereby multiple payment methods can be used by connecting with the local banks. So thereby creating a lot more efficiencies in the local markets for people to pay online or mobile with multiple different payment methods. And these are just not the credit cards, all the alternative payment methods as we mentioned, but also debit cards, tokens, SMS top-ups and things like that. And another thing that we're working on that hopefully within the next month or two we will be able to launch is a fundraising platform, mostly geared towards charitable activities. So this is not necessarily a crowdfunding platform as we know it. The difference here is on fundraising, whereby NGOs and other types of philanthropic activities can use our platform and do their fundraising.
Oh, excellent. All right, Luis, I think that's it for us today. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing some insight not only on CX Pay, but the world of e-commerce. I didn't realize it had so many dimensions to it. And I am very appreciative of your time and all the best with CX Pay.
Thank you very much, Michelle. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the ICT Pulse podcast. You can find links to some of the things we talked about on our website, ict-pulse.com. If you like this episode, please show your support by leaving us a review on iTunes, as it will help others find the show. You can email us at info@ict-pulse.com or drop us a note on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ICTPulse, or via Twitter @ICTPulse. We hope you'll join us again for our next episode. Take care.